Hey mama, if you're listening to this, you might be carrying a secret that feels too heavy to speak out loud. You look like you got it all together, you serve at church, maybe you even lead a Bible study. You smile when you drop off the kids, but no one sees the other side of you, the one that comes out behind closed doors. At home, you are a completely different person. You yell, you explode, you scream at your kids, sometimes in their face. You tell them to shut up. You grab them too harshly. You throw things across the room. You smack them in anger, twist their ears, spank them in rage, and immediately after, you are hit with a tidal wave of shame. You cry alone in your room and you whisper, "God, what is wrong with me?" You feel scared and disgusted by your own reactions. You're terrified that someone might find out. You wonder if your kids would be better off without you. You feel unworthy, broken, and too far gone to be redeemed. You try to fix this on your own. You listen to podcasts, parenting books, download freebies, but nothing changes. You keep falling back into the same patterns, and it feels like you are stuck in a cycle that you can't break. You don't trust yourself anymore, and if you're honest, you are afraid of who you've become. But here's the truth, Mama. You are not beyond hope. You're not alone, and with God's help and the right support, you can change. I'm Elizabeth, a mom of 4 and an anger management coach for Christian moms. And inside my Calm Christian Mom coaching program, I guide women just like you through a powerful transformation. This isn't shallow behavior management. We go deep. We address your triggers, your stress, your mindset, your nervous system, and the spiritual root behind your patterns. We invite God into every layer and walk hand in hand towards healing. In just 12 weeks, you can become a completely different mom, unrecognizable. One who leads with patience, not panic. One whose children feel emotionally safe around her. One who cultivates peace. This summer, I'm offering a Calm Mama strategy session, a powerful 15-minute one-on-one coaching session designed to help you uncover the root of your anger and receive spiritual, emotional, and practical support. It's your chance to experience what coaching is like with me before diving deeper into ongoing support. If we both feel like the full program is the next right step, we can talk about what that looks like for you. You don't have to keep living like this. Your family is worth healing, and so are you. Use the link in the show notes to book the Calm Mama strategy session.
Hi, mamas. Welcome back to another episode of Emotionally Healthy Legacy. Today, I have a guest for us, and her name is Chante. She is a wellness strategist, and she has a podcast. It's called Rock Your Wellness Podcast. And today, we'll be talking about all things with emotional eating, dieting, comparison, and the stress that dieting creates for moms and just in families. And we'll be talking about these topics today. So I'm really excited. So welcome, Lauren. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Hey, I am so excited to be here. Thanks. That was a great introduction. My name is Lauren Chante. I've got 3 little kids. There are 3, 6, and 10. And I've been in the fitness and wellness industry for almost 14 years, but I really got on track with what I do now after I had my first child and I was trying to lose the baby weight and I almost developed an eating disorder. I had been trying to lose the baby weight and I just got super frustrated because I wasn't getting results and I was going through that comparison game. And I had been in the fitness industry already. I was supposed to be somebody who was an expert on weight loss and an expert on this stuff. And I found myself in the bathroom making myself throw up everything that I ate for the first time. And luckily that was the only time I ever did it, because I heard a voice in my head, which I'm religious, so I believe it was God, telling me that I wasn't the problem and that I needed to really understand this problem and solve it for other women. So I spent the last 10 years of my life dedicating myself to studying not just nutrition, but also psychology, sociology, anthropology, women's issues, so that I could really get to the root of why it is that dieting can make us crazy. My goal is really to help women to have an effortless wellness journey.
I'm glad that you're talking about like the postpartum struggle, because I can so relate with that. So having 4 kids, it takes me about 9 months to get somewhat closer to my pre-pregnancy weight. And
Yes.
I really, really struggle. And I don't like, and after all of my kids, when I stopped breastfeeding, I would do, well, with my first 3, I would try like this super strict cleanse to make me just quickly drop the weight. And it wasn't because I wanted to feel, it wasn't because I like wanted to support myself. It was, I wanted to punish my body because I was so unhappy with how I looked physically. And I just, coming from being a teenager and like when I was first married, I had one of those ideal body shapes, like hourglass, flat tummy. I never had to work for my body to look nice before I had kids. Like it was just like toned, and it looked like I worked out when I didn't. And so after having kids and having like a bulge tummy and having diastasis recti and like just feeling so blah in your body, like once I stopped breastfeeding, I'm like, I wanted to like almost punish my body, be like, I'm going to do whatever it takes to lose the weight. And I did one of those like master cleanses. I don't know if you ever heard of it. It's like this,
lemon juice, maple syrup.
And it would made me lose the weight, like about 10, 15 pounds quickly. And I looked great. And like, it gave me like energy or whatever. But then as soon as I stopped the cleanse and I would start eating real food again, and I eat pretty healthy on a regular basis, it would just, the weight would just like creep a little bit back up. And I would just get so upset with myself. So I can understand kind of where you were experienced. So let's talk a little bit about that. And just the comparison that moms have postpartum with other moms and wanting to fit into it and like forcing their body to diet.
Oh, there is so much to unpack. There's so much to unpack here. So the comparison game is huge. And that's obviously what I found myself caught up in. And when I look at the amount of stress and toxic stuff that goes on with us when we're trying to lose weight, especially as moms, or we're like obsessing about our bodies, it really falls into like 3 big areas that are pulling us down. The first one is mindsets. The second one is the methods. And the third one is the culture that's around us that needs to be shifted. So when it comes to the mindsets, a lot of times our goals for ourselves are not rooted in the right place. Sort of like you were saying, you wanted to punish your body. There's a lot of shame in that postpartum period for not getting your body back quickly. I know I felt that way because I was a fitness professional. I was supposed to be the example of bouncing back, of like being in my pre-baby jeans. And like, I was supposed to be up on Instagram showing everybody how good I looked.
So you had that extra pressure than a regular mom.
Yeah. And kind of side note, like it's really, I think it's important for people to recognize that people in the fitness industry, like myself, personal trainers, people you see on Instagram, they feel an extra layer of pressure than most people to look a certain way because our paychecks oftentimes depend on what people think about how we look. I remember when I first started working in a gym when I was 19, somebody told me clients are going to hire you based on whether they want to look like you or not. And that was the advice that one of my fitness managers gave me as a new personal trainer. It didn't have to do with the fact that I had my master's degree in exercise science, that I had studied physiology and studied to be the best trainer that I could, or that I really cared about my clients even. It really, I was told, just came down to how I looked. And there are thousands of fitness professionals, thousands of coaches on Instagram who have received the same messaging from society over the years, but yet we're the ones who are setting the expectations and the culture for all the people who are looking up to us. So it's just so necessary to recognize that you have to be very careful about where you are getting your ideas about in terms of what you're supposed to look like and what you're comparing yourself to. I love Tanya Dalton, her book, The Joy of Missing Out. If you guys haven't read it, you read it.
Oh my gosh, I started to review it yesterday. Like it's right next to me. Oh, I love that book.
It's so good. So if you guys haven't read it, one of the things I love that Tanya talks about, basically the idea is like you can do anything, but you can't do everything. right? So you have to lean into the thing that you really want to grow in different seasons of your life. And you have to be intentional about what you're leaning your time into, right? And whatever you lean your time into and whatever you're going to like unbalance yourself in the direction of that thing, whether that thing is the season of spending time with your family or it's the season of getting your business to grow, right? For the people who we're looking up to in terms of like who we want to look like, these are people whose jobs and purposes are to exercise and diet. Their lives are unbalanced and leaning into fitness and wellness. It is to be expected that when you are leaning into that with the majority of your energy and the majority of your life, that you're going to achieve results that reflect how much time and energy you need into it. Yet those of us who have a newborn and little kids, like that's not where our energy and our time is leaning. We're unbalanced towards motherhood. We're unbalanced towards caring for our children, towards caring for our homes. Yet we're expecting ourselves to match up to people whose time and energy is unbalanced literally towards caring for their bodies. Like that's the only thing to do.
Thank you for saying that, because that is so freeing, just like seeing it from that perspective. I remember I watched also a YouTube video, it's been months ago, but she talked about like we're often comparing ourselves with these people who were fit before they got pregnant. That was their lifestyle. So of course it makes sense that they would probably get back to looking that way quicker than you, because that was their lifestyle leading up to it. Like they already had a six pack and worked out 5 days a week. Like that was already their priority. And we're comparing ourselves to people like that. And we're like, oh my gosh, I don't measure up, and we're beating ourselves up and we feel worse internally. Then we punish our body trying to diet or whatever.
Yes. Yes, exactly. So you're right. You're right on exactly what I'm saying. And, I think a lot of times we want to say that wanting to lose weight after having a baby is about our health and wellness and feeling good. But we really have to be honest with ourselves that a lot of times it's really about just the shame and wanting to escape that. And when we can really lean into understanding what we're comparing ourselves to, it does have the potential to free us so much. And I also think it's really important to understand that health and wellness are not the same as fitness and weight loss. Like you can not look like a fitness model and you can still be very healthy. The only person who can determine whether you're healthy or not is your doctor. You have to go to your doctor. You have to have your blood work done. You have to have them do your regular physical exams. Make sure you're doing all of your exams. Your doctor is the only person who can tell you if you're healthy, because health cannot be determined from looking at someone. We're not cars. Like you can't just like pop open the hood and take our fluids. Like you can't tell from looking at the outside how you're doing on the inside. And a lot of us have kind of developed this toxic idea that we can determine whether we're healthy or not based on how skinny or how toned we are. And they're not related. The way that you look is not always related to your health. So we have so much to deconstruct around that. And women in general, but especially mothers, we tend not to be the greatest about going to the doctor. We tend not to be the greatest about keeping up on our routine physical exams and our routine health stuff. And, what is that saying about what our real motivations are, right? So I think that there's a lot of dialogue that can happen about what actually comprises health and if we're really being committed to our health or if we're in it because of that feeling of shame.
Oh, thank you so much for saying that, because I know that I have people in my life who they look skinny, they look like they're healthy, but if you have a one-to-one open conversation with them, they're struggling with a lot of issues, like actual health problems that I don't have. And I'm like,
yes.
Oh my goodness. And I might not look as, toned and fit, but I'm like, I don't have those problems, but they do, but they look like they are in a much better shape than I am. So like, thank you just for saying that. I think that also just even shifting your, just the mindset and like thinking from a different perspective is also like so freeing and not feeling stuck like that.
Yes. And we have to talk about mental health when we talk about health too. If you are physically the picture of health, but what you're doing to get yourself there is damaging your mental health, then are you really healthy? And that's the position that I found myself in and why I'm so passionate about protecting our sanity, because it really is possible when you're trying to lose weight to go off the deep end, whether it has to do with developing an eating disorder like I did. And just out of, as a matter of interest, there are research studies that show that 60% of women have at least one one sign or one type of disordered eating. So this is like universal. All women to some extent are experiencing this, right? But it's not just about eating disorders. It's also about burnout. A lot of the methods of dieting and a lot of the methods of losing weight, they exacerbate burnout in a group of people that are already really prone to it. Like moms are carrying so much. We don't get a lot of sleep. We usually have more on our plate than we can physically handle. And then when we're doing these traditional diets, it's just so much stress and so much extra time and energy and thought that we have to spend on it that it really can snowball into burnout really fast.
Yes. I mean, and I talk a lot about mental burnout with moms and all the things that we like keep track and that overwhelm us and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Let's talk about like the one fits all diet and how that will also create the mental stress on moms that they're trying to fit into. Either it could be like, keto is really big right now, or whatever, no carbs or less sugar, and then like intermittent fasting. I know multiple people that it worked amazing for them. They got great results, especially men, I feel like, do well with intermittent fasting. It seems to like their bodies just respond differently. And then I know like some of my girlfriends tried it and it just like, it would create even more stress for them. And it wasn't working. And then you get so mad at your body that it's not getting you the results that you want. And it like spirals into like this just, feeling even worse. Okay. So let's talk about like the one fits all diet and all the stress that comes with it.
I love this topic. If you guys were seeing me on video right now, I'm like shaking and Elizabeth's laughing at me because I love this topic so much. Okay. So to really dive into what's happening there, we have to look at diet culture a little bit. And some of you guys have probably heard of the phrase diet culture. I'm going to break it down a little bit about what exactly that means. So basically our ideas about dieting, our bodies, what to do or what not to do come from diet culture. And diet culture came about because food, dieting, fitness, nutrition, they're profitable. And in order for them to be profitable, the people who market them know that we have to think we have a problem and know what that problem is, believe that the problem is solvable, and ideally believe that the solution is easy and painless because that's going to make us the best buyers, right? So in order to make it so that sales are made on dieting products, there's a lot of one size fits all approaches out there. The first reason is it's really easy to package that. It's really easy to sell a one size fits all product. Working with somebody on who they are uniquely and what their body needs uniquely, you can't scale that and you can't sell that to the masses. It's just not doable. It's not realistic. We've also started to believe that we are the problem because that's what we have to believe in order to be sold to. So it's constantly being highlighted in the media, in magazines, in your doctor's office, wherever it may be, that you have a problem. You need to lose weight. You're not healthy enough. You need to worry about your health and your wellness, right? So we're constantly getting barraged with this, which is not that great for our mental health. On top of that, we're really out of touch with our bodies and our minds because we're constantly looking outward at these diets for the advice on how we should be taking care of our body. And we don't spend any time going inward to learn exactly how our body is working because our bodies are all extremely unique. And I'll talk about that in a little bit. We're also really out of touch with any ideas that are kind of above the fourth grade level because for things to be really marketable, they have to be simple. They can't be too complex and they definitely can't be like really sciencey or school related because the average consumer will get shut off by that really fast. And the fact of the matter is to like really care for your body and to really find what really works for your body, you have to learn. You have to learn. You have to be somebody who's a lifelong learner, who's committed to knowledge. And so as the end result of all of this diet culture, what ends up happening is exactly what you're talking about. People are getting bad results from things that are working for everyone else. And when you see that you are the only one who can't stick to something, or you're the only one who doesn't get results from doing keto, intermittent fasting, Whole30, then the dialogue that you have in your head is, why is this working for everyone else and it's not working for me? Something must be wrong with me. I'm not tough enough. I'm not motivated enough. I can't stick to a diet. My body is broken. I cannot tell you how many times I have heard those phrases spoken out of the words of women who come to work with me. And that is damaging to your mental health, to be thinking those feelings about yourself. And the horrible thing about it is that it's not even true. It's not you. You are not any of those things. You're simply being sold dieting plans and trying dieting plans that don't respect the science of nutrition. They don't respect the science of psychology, and they don't respect who you are as a human being. So one thing that I'm really passionate about, because I am a scientist, my undergraduate is in biology, my master's degree is in exercise science, is that the human organism is designed to survive. If you look around planet Earth at different cultures, you will find people living and thriving on all sorts of different types of diets. You'll find people eating high carb diets in Africa and doing phenomenally well. You'll find people eating high fat diets, high protein diets, diets with lots of vegetables, diets without a lot of vegetables. The fact of the matter is the human organism is designed to survive. And because of that, we have a really vast variety in terms of what could potentially work for you or not work for you based off of your genetics. So we don't honor that, though, with traditional dieting. And so because of that, a lot of times what happens is you're using a one-size-fits-all approach that doesn't really fit with your unique physiology. And then on top of the science side of it, we're not even talking about your unique psychology and your unique life situation. So when I work with people, I look at their psychology as well. Somebody who comes from a background of food scarcity when they were a child compared to food abundance is going to react very differently to a diet plan. Somebody who had childhood trauma is going to come from a very different place than somebody who did not. Somebody who, I'm trying to think of some other examples. Well, obviously motherhood is a huge one. Somebody who has children who sleep through the night, they're going to react very differently to a diet than that mom who still has a 2-year-old that wakes up 4 times a night. It's me. I still have that. So I know this is a personal thing for me too. So really, we're making decisions on how to care for our bodies based on what our neighbors and our friends are doing. And when that doesn't work for us, we're feeling like we're the problem because we're not exposed to any of the knowledge or any of the tools that will really help us to get results. And I love the body positivity movement. I love the self-love movement, but sometimes it breaks my heart because I feel like women are giving up on their goals simply because they feel like they have no other choice. And they're giving up on feeling good in their skin because they are just done trying every day and not getting anywhere. And they recognize that it's not healthy to feel that shame, blame, frustration, and overwhelm around themselves. And it just seems like there's no other choice, right? So where I really try to step in is I try to use my understanding of science, psychology, nutrition to give people the tools where they can have that effortless wellness. They can start to see results in their body, but we're doing it in a way that feels really good for our mental health.
Thank you. Thank you so much. That was, I really like that. I really like what you said. Just even hearing that perspective and having some just weight lifted off, like there isn't anything wrong with me, you know, like a lot of this is just the outside pressure that it comes from the society and just all these messages that we receive that we put that pressure on ourselves and then beat ourselves up and like say all these negative things to ourselves. And, it doesn't have to stay like that. So there's people like you that can help women who are struggling in this. And if you are listening to this, mama, and you like this speaks to you and you're like, oh my goodness, this is exactly what I'm dealing with. We'll mention all the things that Lauren has to offer, her free resources, and also like the support that she has for moms that you can connect with her. I want to touch on emotional eating.
Mm-hmm. Love that topic.
Yes. Since a lot of messages we talk about in my community is about emotional wellness, emotional regulation, like feeling uncomfortable and those, I guess, like negative emotions that we would call, you know, frustration or just a hard day with the kids or whatever, and then emotional eating. So let's talk on that because I think that is something that a lot of us can relate to. At the end of the day, kids are in bed, we whip out our cookies or ice cream, and we just want the day to be over and just to feel a little bit better. And so we eat our sugar and then we feel even worse. So let's talk on that.
Yeah, let's speak to that. Okay. The first place I want to go with this is I think when you think of yourself as an emotional eater, nobody ever really feels good about that. Like, there's nobody who is okay with that. There's a lot of negative vibe and a lot of negative connotation to saying I emotionally eat, right? And I want people to be very aware of that, because it's another one of those labels that makes us feel that shame, blame, and frustration. That's not good for our mental health. That's not good for preventing burnout. That's not good for protecting ourselves against disordered eating. And you may not actually really be experiencing emotional eating, which is something I talked about. I have a whole podcast episode dedicated to this. There are a lot of things physiologically that go on with people, and especially women and mothers, that we can oftentimes misread as emotional eating. And I think that understanding that is really important, because with all those negative vibes around labeling yourself as an emotional eater, letting go of that label can be really freeing. Because when you feel like you're an emotional eater, you kind of feel like, oh, well, I'm somebody who I'm not tough enough again. I can't handle my emotions. Why can everybody else handle their emotions and I can't, right? So one of the research studies I love to talk about is I also found this in Tanya Dalton's book. So you may have read this. It's the first place I saw it. The long and short of it is there was a research study. They took a group of college students. They had one group memorize a short number, one group memorize a long number. And then all the subjects walked down a hallway. And at the end of the hallway, they had to choose between a healthy snack and a sugary snack. For the group that memorized the long number, they were statistically more likely to select the sugary snack than the healthy snack. And this was hypothesized. The theory was that it was because their brains were more fatigued by having to memorize the long number. So when our brains become fatigued, we actually lose our ability to make good decisions. We become more impulsive. We have less control over our decisions, right? And our brain can become fatigued in a lot of different ways. In that case, the brain was fatigued by taking in intellectual information, right? So any of you moms who are going to school during the day, who are trying to go to college while you have kids, who maybe have a job that's very mentally demanding, I want you guys to listen to that and really understand what's happening to your brain, because you are a working mom or a mom going to school, right? The second thing is decisions really fatigue our brain. There is a thing called decision fatigue that some of you guys have probably heard of. And I know just from studying women's studies that women tend to carry the mental load in our households. Even if both you and your spouse work full time, oftentimes it's the women who are keeping track of the cleaning schedule, even if their spouses help to clean. They're the ones who are remembering that the leprechaun trap is going to be due on St. Patrick's Day and that they need to pick up the supplies, and that if they don't wash Marcy's soccer uniform by today, she's not going to have anything to wear to soccer tomorrow, even if their husband is helping take the kids to soccer, right? Typically, women carry the greater mental load. So we are at a greater propensity for having our brains fatigued. So that's one physiological explanation for why you could be finding yourself making poor choices about what you're eating at the end of the day. At the end of the day, your brain is fatigued. So I like to help people to reframe that as what I call brain dead eating instead of emotional eating. And when you call it brain dead eating instead of emotional eating, it takes you from this place of like, I can't handle my emotions, sort of that Eeyore sort of feeling about yourself from Winnie the Pooh, if any of you guys are Winnie the Pooh fans, to this almost this place of like recognizing how much you've put into the world on that day. Like I worked today. I studied for school. I made decisions for my family. I kept everything running smoothly. My brain is tired right now and I'm having trouble making good choices because I'm a rock star. Because I'm a rock star and I'm dropping this ball right now because I'm a rock star. Do you see how different that feels to recognize that? It's like, it's such a lightening to put yourself in that position. And from that position, you can free up all your mental energy you've been wasting on telling yourself how cruddy you are for emotional eating. And now you can take that same mental energy and you can put it towards being like, okay, yes, this is the situation I'm in because I'm a rock star. And I'm going to use my energy to figure how to get out of it because I'm a rock star. It's a whole different way of doing things. And that's not even touching on like the way you nourish yourself during the day. A lot of times women aren't nourishing themselves enough in order to go to the end of the day without binge eating or eating a lot of sugar. Caffeine is something that I talk about on my podcast in terms of how caffeine can contribute to that end of the day eating. There's like so much that we can dive into that really takes the shame and the blame and that label of emotional eating away.
Yeah, thank you so much for mentioning that. I just know even like for myself, I talk a lot about emotional regulation and how evenings is so much harder. By the end of the day, you're so exhausted, and it takes your frontal lobe. That's the problem solving, the positive choice making part of the brain. And it takes a lot of energy to, let's say, emotionally regulate, make good choices, and do all these things that require your thinking brain. And then at the end of the day, you're just exhausted. Your brain just literally is exhausted. So that is why you would, like, that you said brain dead, like you're making choices like that because your brain is just tired to make a positive choice. That's why you are more snappy with the kids at the end of the day. And you're like, oh my gosh, I am so done. If you get out of bed one more time, I'm just going to lose my marbles, because you're just so exhausted, and it's hard for your brain to make good choices. And it's not because you're a bad mom, not at all. It's just you're tired and you're exhausted, and it makes so much sense. So let's give our listeners some hope. We touched on a lot of things today. What is like one thing you would like them to walk away with that is hopeful and that will be just kind of like uplifting after listening to everything we were talking about today?
Yeah. So I think just really holding on to the fact that when you're experiencing challenges with caring for your body, it's really not you. It really just has to do with the mindsets, the methods, and the culture that needs to be shifted. And when you can recognize that, it gives you the power to search for the solutions that will work for you. And there's so much hope in that, and like letting go of the idea that you are the problem, and instead being able to focus that energy on solutions and looking for solutions. And it does take innovation and it does take persistence, but most women haven't even got to that point where they're ready to be persistent or innovative because they're just so depressed about where they are in their bodies. So I would say that for me, that's like the really big jumping off point for hope, is recognizing that the solutions are out there once you step away from the traditional way of doing things.
Thank you. Thank you. Tell us where our listeners can find you. And you did have a journal prompt, I believe, for people to work through that will be really helpful on the things that we talked on today.
Yeah, totally. So you guys can find me at laurenchante.com. That's CHANTE.com. And I put together some journal prompts that go with what we talked about today, because it's so important to me that you guys always take action on what we talk about. And with this stuff about diet culture and how we feel about ourselves, there's so much to dismantle that we really have to make the commitment to like doing the work, listening to the episode and doing the work. So you guys can find that at laurenchante.com/emotionally healthy legacy. I would also love to have you guys over on my podcast. I dive into a lot, even far beyond what we were able to talk about today in terms of mindsets, how we view the world, matters to the heart. And that podcast is called Rock Your Wellness with Lauren Chante. I'm on Apple, Spotify, and it's on my website. I think it's basically on everything. And other than that, I'd love to hang out on Instagram. My Instagram is Lauren Chante Official. I'm that on basically all the social media platforms. So that's where you guys can find me.
Awesome. Thank you so much for being here. And I loved all the things that we talked about.
Here are the takeaways. We get a lot of messages from society, and it shapes the way we think about our bodies. Number 2, people who are fitness influencers, their life is unbalanced toward fitness. Number 3, health and wellness is not the same as fitness and weight loss. Number 4, just because you're skinny, that doesn't mean you're physically healthy and mentally healthy. Number 5, dieting can be so damaging to you. There's no all-fits-all solution. And the last one is emotional eating. It usually happens when our brains are tired, and Lauren calls it brain dead eating. It's hard to make good choices when we are exhausted. Hey mama, do you find yourself snapping over the smallest things, like spilled milk or constant whining, then feeling horrible afterwards? If you're tired of losing your temper and you want to show up, with more patience, I have something for you. It's a free training called How to Be More Patient with Your Kids so you're not screaming over spilled milk. Inside, I'll walk you through 10 simple things you can start doing today to become a calmer, more Christ-like mom, even on the hard days. To get it for free, just leave a rating and review on Apple Podcasts and send a screenshot to hello@emotionallyhealthylegacy.com. Or if you'd rather skip the wait, you can grab it right now for just $27. The link is in the show notes. Let's help you become the peaceful, patient mom your kids need.